And Pekka. Okay, thanks Ismo for telling what the foundation has been doing lately, and also some of the kind of future things. What I'm going to continue now is more about the development side, what has happened with Robot Framework itself and what has happened with the community, and also, of course, what's going to happen in the future, and then in the end we are going to look at a bit like who we are, where we're from, and so on. So get started. Well, what's new in Robot Framework front? What has we've got and what are we going to get with the money foundation has spent? Well, Robot Framework 3.2, except that it's not ready yet, but it's in beta. This beta was released actually this week on Monday. I kind of needed it for my workshop on Tuesday, and also I wanted to present something here. And it's going to be starting to be in pretty good shape, but well, unfortunately not yet released. Cool stuff in this new parser, new feature, new release. Cool stuff in the new release is the new parser. The original idea why we wanted to rewrite the parser and component in Robot Framework was that adding new features, new syntax for the old parser was pretty much impossible, and we knew that we want to add something like that in the future. So we needed to do something for that. Another thing we wanted from the parser was that we wanted it to have better APIs to external systems, so that it's easier to use Robot's own parser to do some of your own kind of custom tools, and maybe help with IDs and so on. I'll get back to that. The new APIs that we have, there are basically two. There's one API to get tokens from the data. This is going to get to be pretty low-level stuff in general. These tokens that you can use them, for example, for syntax highlighting, but they also, of course, for many other things if you kind of custom solutions. And then we have a bit higher level API for this parsing models. We have this to get the model. And I'll go show them shortly how they work. We have now two-day conference, and two-day conference today is kind of a bit more technical day, so I think I can actually show you some code also. And I'll show how these new APIs, how they in high level work. Here we have a very simple example. As you can see, there's a bad tag, and also there's kind of a typo that should be with C, and we'll do something for that. So this is the one API that we have. We can get tokens using that get tokens method, and I'll just pass it the path to that file, and then I get tokens and I print them out to the standard output, and I can show what we get. So that's what we have now. So this thing there is passed into this kind of smaller pieces called tokens, and then they have different kind of type, like this one here, that's a header, and it has that value on line 1 with column offset 0. End of line, kind of end of statement. Then the name here, separators, we can see we have tags, keywords, and so on. So this would be very easy then to hook up to some kind of syntax highlighter, because you can simply say that, okay, let's highlight, for example, anything that is a test case header. Like here, it's actually been done. So this editor here is having its own tokenizer, but now in the future, hopefully it can use Robot Framework's real tokenizer so that it can actually parse the data correctly. This plugin has several issues with any kind of more advanced Robot Framework syntax. So yeah, that's what you can do with this one. Of course, you could manipulate this data and then write it to the disk. You could do something like this, but this API, getting the tokens, isn't that convenient for that, because when we have the other one, this one, that works better. So we can get this kind of a model, bit higher level thing that's built on top of those tokens. This model is implemented technically using Python standard library model called AST, abstract syntax tree. We are using that there. And this alone here, what does, well, it does something, it parses the model, but we don't get anything, but I'll have something more here. I'm going to pretty print that model so that we can see it in the screen. That AST pretty is not standard library module, it just does better job in pretty printing this than the standard library module does, so I installed that third-party module. And I can show how this same thing looks here. Let's try again. So this model, of course, still kind of a low-level thing, but we can see that we have, there. We can see we have a file that is parsed into a file there. File has sections. There's a test case section. Test case section has a header. Then test case section has body. Body has test case. There could be multiple test cases, of course. Test case has a header also, which contains the name. Test case has body, where we have tags and we have a keyword call and so on. So that's how it looks like. So what can you do with this? Well, this kind of model can be then parsed and kind of transferred into another kind of model. And that's what happens nowadays with Robot Framework 3.2 when you execute Robot Framework test. We build this kind of model first, and then we transform that to an executable test structure that is then finally executed. That same executable structure was used already earlier, so everything from basically that point of view is same as it used to be in earlier Robot Framework versions. Also, you could then manipulate this, do changes that clean it up. And I think many people here know Robot Framework has a built-in tool called Tidy, and that Tidy also nowadays uses that. We needed to re-implement Tidy as well, so that, but it uses now this model. But also what is really interesting then is that you can then do some kind of custom things with this model. I have here an example. Now I'm actually using that AST module. I implemented this kind of a data fixer here. That's what it does. It goes through the model, and for each of those tags here, tag statements, it's going to visit them, that AST node. This is all this, how this visit algorithm is part of Python standard library, so we can reuse that. So we can visit all tag nodes, and then I go through all the tokens, and if the token happens to be of type argument and has value bad, I change the value to good. And then I go through all the keyword calls, I get that token, and if there's a keyword with that name, I want to rename that keyword, I change the value to that. Of course, then I need to use that for something, so what I do, I create an instance of that, and it has a visit method. Pass our model there, and then the model is updated. And also, well, I need to maybe save that to a file, and how I can do that is that I just say model, save. And doing that will save it to the original file. I would also give here a path to another file if I didn't want to override it. But let's see what happens when I run this now. No. Go here, and it was changed. So this allows pretty cool possibilities for to kind of linters, data formatters, and stuff like that using these APIs, so that you can have your custom solutions, but of course also probably even better that there will be external tools helping you with this, and also helps a lot making this Tidy tool a lot better in the future. So yeah, that's something I'm pretty excited about. If you want to learn more about that, you can come chat with me today or come to join sprints tomorrow. We can go through it there in more detail. That's definitely not the only cool thing in Robot Framework 3.2. One kind of also code-related change that I really like is related to libraries. There's a new library decorator. It helps customizing your libraries, setting library scope, version, and some other kind of attributes in a library. You like this syntax. And another thing that it does is that if you use this library decorator, then methods in this class became keywords only if you explicitly decorate them with this keyword decorator. Keyword decorator has been there for some time. You can use that also otherwise to fine-tune how those keywords look like, set custom name and stuff like this. But now with the library decorator, you need to use them. This may not be the kind of convenient thing if you have a really simple library, but if you are going to implement bigger libraries, this kind of explicitly marking keywords can be pretty handy. So yeah, that is coming, and that's also, like the parsing stuff, it's already in this beta. There are many other changes there. Well, over 60 changes at the moment. When we get to the final release, I would expect there to be something like 70 changes or something like that. One kind of handy thing is inline Python evaluation support. Basically, you can reuse Robot Framework's variable syntax to evaluate Python stuff there directly. Not really kind of a big new feature, but can be handy sometimes. One thing I wanted to mention here, it's not maybe otherwise worth mentioning here, but this listener thing, and listeners can now add and remove tests. But last year we had actually presentation about model-based testing with Robot Framework, and there was kind of one of the problem there was that this model-based testing solution that was implemented was using this listener API and adding test cases on the fly, and they needed to have kind of annoying hacks to avoid this limitation or bug in a listener API, but that's been now fixed, so it's easier. We also saw it yesterday. If you were in Lightning Talks, there was this Lightning Talk about flow charts and generating tests based on that. And that has a precondition that you need to use that with Robot Framework 3.2, and that's also a reason that it needed to fix for this issue. Really nice thing, not a feature in the framework itself, is that we are finally getting CI solution. Again, we haven't had a CI solution for a few years now. There hasn't been any like really good open source or free, easy to use solution available, but now GitHub Actions is a new thing on GitHub, and that's pretty promising. Supports Windows out of the box in addition to Linux, and also actually has even OS X. Supports all the interpreters we want, and Mihail Kulinic implemented the kind of first version for that, and Juho Saarinen has been working with him lately to make it really work. It's not yet merged into master, but it's going to be soon. That's, I think, something Juho and I we are going to look at the sprints. But it already helped making that beat out, so that was a big help already now. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, those are the major things in Robot Framework 3.2. I'm not going to go through all those 60 fixes and features there, but there are release notes, of course, explaining everything. So let's look at what the community has been doing. What kind of external projects have we got new ones? What kind of libraries we've got, enhancements, and other external tools. So on library front, one quite big thing has been that Selenium library got new version 4.0 that has a new plugin API that is pretty interesting. And I'm not going to talk more about that because Tatu has a presentation. I'll let him talk about that. And then also there's a Selenium testability kind of, which is actually using the plugin API. Adds new functionality on top of that for waiting and other features. SSA library also got some new releases. At least I think it got at least SCP support, if I'm not wrong. No, I'm not sure about all the other enhancement possibility there. We also got a lot of tools, a lot of new tools, and existing tools got updated. The tool that I'm probably most kind of excited about is this Robot Framework Swarm, which is a tool that allows you to use Robot Framework for performance testing. So basically it reuses Robot Framework scripts for performance testing, and it gets actually pretty good results with that. Totally comparable with this load runner, even if that is using the native mode or something like that. If you use load runner only to send kind of a HTTP request, then apparently that's faster. But nowadays web pages are so dynamic that that style of performance testing wouldn't work anymore. So that's really interesting because Robot Framework hasn't been designed to be a performance testing tool, so it's kind of a new opening for us totally. So if that's interesting, go check it out. You can Google with Robot Framework Swarm or RF Swarm and find it on GitHub. René's data driver is also very interesting. That's another thing that I'm not going to talk at all here because we have a presentation. So he'll tell about that. Robot Lab is something that we've been hearing a bit yesterday. That's part of this Jupyter ecosystem that's on top of around Robot Framework. Asko was showing that already yesterday. WebDriver Manager, not directly Robot Framework related tool, implemented by Jani in our community though. It helps dealing the pain with working with the browser drivers when using Selenium. Test Assistant is something that Joshua was demonstrating yesterday already, the new one. It will be interesting to see what evolves from that. Old tools got new versions. JavaLib Core, which helps implementing Java-based libraries, got version 2. Java Remote Server got version 4. Those were both done by Juho, who is going to have a talk about remote servers today, so that's yet another topic I'm not going to talk more about here, so we'll learn about this. Mikko has been active with Pabot. He definitely doesn't believe in like big, huge releases, but more like an incremental improvements, because he made 49 releases out of Pabot, which is kind of must be some kind of a new record. Yeah, that's and on the editor front, there happened something also. There's a Red got some new releases that's getting better and better. And also, old editor Ride got finally new release. And I think Helio is working with another one, so we'll see. So yeah, that kind of happening. If you have tool or library that wasn't mentioned yet, that you think it's worth mentioning, mention it when we get to the question and answer part. So what's next? Robot Framework 3.2. We hopefully get it released also. It's now in beta. I'm kind of guesstimating that it will be out in March. Then again, I was kind of believing that it would be released ready in October, so don't sue me if it's not out in March. But now I know that it's in pretty good shape. There are no major things in the parsing to be fixed anymore, or designed, some fine-tuning and then adding some few new features still. Another thing that is then going to happen, there's kind of actually a decision about this already, but what I'm really excited about is this language server. And I'm sure that not everybody here knows what is the language server, and I'm also sure that if I say that it's a implementation of the language server protocol, that doesn't probably help you a lot either. But what are language servers? They are basically components that work with IDEs, providing syntax highlighting and completion and maybe like go-to definition and syntax checking also, and maybe even refactoring and cool stuff like this. Of course, you have had that kind of things with IDEs for a long time, but the cool thing about language server is that they are kind of outside the editor, the IDE or editor. They are external processes, and editors' IDEs are communicating with them using JSON RPC-based protocol. This originates from Visual Studio Code, where this is the way how you basically write plugins to that. But nowadays, all kind of major editors support it, either directly or they have a plugin. And which means that if you implement Robot Framework language server, then all kind of major editors, IDEs, can start using that. They probably need some kind of glue code there, but then it will be definitely ease creating good quality Robot Framework editors. For example, they will get the parsing right because they will be using Robot Framework parser. So the idea is to base this on the new parser. So this language server will use the parser. It will be a separate project from Robot Framework core, but it will use the new parser and then also other features from Robot to be able to do intelligent syntax highlighting and go to definitions and so on. So I have really high hopes for that. There was Robot Framework Foundation annual meeting on Monday. And there it was decided that this is going to be kind of the highest priority for the foundation for this year. Of course, getting 3.2 out is kind of even a higher priority. We need to get that ready. But already now that the beta has good APIs that the LSP can use, we can start thinking about this more and we'll see what happens. If you are interested in this, come talk with me afterwards. If you have any experience writing language servers, especially if you have experience writing those in Python, I'm even more interested to hear about that. And this is yet another topic that we'll talk more tomorrow at sprints. So yeah, this is potentially very interesting. Of course, the server alone isn't enough, but then I would expect we have a lot of plugins for different editors for that already, but they have all kind of issues, and I hope this will help fixing those issues. Well, one thing that is happening is that Python 2 end of life is near. It was actually originally there was the kind of announcement that it would be already in this month, January. But now there was later kind of official announcement that the Python Software Foundation is not going to support Python 2 anymore after April. So there's going to be some release still, but then after April, no more updates, not even security updates. So that's Python Software Foundation. But I know that there's still robot framework users using, and actually looking at download counts now, just recently, like last month, finally, more robot framework downloads are with Python 3 than Python 2. So it's still now kind of close, still nearly 50-50, but now somewhat consistently there are more downloads per day for using Python 3 than Python 2. So in this situation, robot framework 3.2 is still going to support Python 2. Also, all the minor releases that are coming are going to support it, so that's for sure. But then also what's certain is that I definitely don't want to be writing Python 2 compatible code anymore in 2021. And I think there was also kind of a decision with the foundation board at some point that the foundation don't want to sponsor development using Python 2 anymore then. So Python 2 support in robot framework is also going to go away soonish, but still kind of this year we are going to support it. The biggest problem, of course, are Jython and IronPython, that they don't have Python 3 compatible versions. With IronPython, there's a module called PythonNet that allows you to use .NET modules from normal Python. So that's easy, but with Jython, we really need to think what we can do with it. But we cannot wait forever with them that are they going to get some Python 3 compatible versions out. So we'll see what happens. Things that are going to happen as well are then Robot Framework 3.3. That release is then going to have those cool new syntax features that the new parser allows. But because the foundation has somewhat limited resources, and we already made the decision that LSP, that making language servers, making editors better, is going to be the highest priority. It means basically that this will be delayed a bit. The original plan was that we would start this kind of right away after 3.2, maybe waiting a little time to see if there are bugs and what kind of minor releases we need. But now it seems that we can early start it in the second half. I kind of hope then might even be delayed to next year. Which also means that it won't be released this year, it will be released next year hopefully. And as I already told, I don't want to be writing Python 2 compatible code next year, which is very likely to mean that the next release is not going to work anymore with Python 2. And when we drop Python 2, we are most likely also going to go directly to Python 3.6. Yeah. Of course, good. I mean, you can use in your own libraries and all infrastructure. I would be using Python 3.6 myself. So that's even if we support Python 2, it doesn't mean that you need to. But yeah, so that's the future. Well, in the future, I expect, of course, there to be a lot of projects by the community as well, but that's something that I cannot promise. I cannot make promises by the community. We have an awesome community, and you saw how many new projects we got last year, and of course, the list there earlier was kind of bigger projects and bigger new releases. There have been a lot of smaller projects, new small projects, and many other projects have gotten new releases and so on. So I'm sure there's going to be a great amount of projects by the community this year. Especially, I mean, if you get the language server thing working really well, then I expect there to be a lot of things happening on that editor front. And perhaps also kind of better code formatters and linters and so on for using the new parsing APIs in general. So yeah, I expect there to be many things to happen. Well, that's something that probably will also be these topics discussed tomorrow. I'm at sprints. But yeah, we'll see next year what happened. Then we get to this who are we, or actually where are we from. And this is the time when I ask Ed here to help me. So here's Ed Manlove. He's a very active kind of community member, a community builder in general. If you have been here in Robocon earlier, you probably remember him. Ed was presenting about the importance of communities in Robocon 2018 when it was the first time we organized it. And in there, he was kind of asking where people are from so that we can kind of see how big the community is and so on. Now we have this map also. If you haven't put your kind of sticker on the map there, go do it afterwards so we can take a new photo. So Ed did that same thing, well, not the whole talk, but where everybody is from did it last year as well, and I wanted him to do it again, so go on, Ed.
All right. So I've got one of the mics, handheld mic. Can you hear me? I can't hear myself. Okay. So one of the real goals of this is to, one, see where everybody's from, but also take a chance here to look around and see where other people are from. In addition, sometimes what we do is, I know 2 years ago when we did it, we had several times where we had two different groups of people, very small groups, but two different groups of people saying, oh, hey, wait a second, you're from our area too. So look for new people who might be close to you. So I'm going to read out some areas. Pekka is going to actually help me in some of my translations. But from, if I could have everybody from the capital area, from the Helsinki area, please stand up. This is usually the majority.
Yeah.
So these are the people, if you stay standing for a second, these are the people who will help you, tell you where all the great cultural sites are around the city and all where the good food is. So take a good look at that. Thank you all, and thank you all for hosting us. Really, it's greatly appreciated. All right, let's try the first one. Temperia. I totally butchered that one.
Tampere.
He's going to laugh. Tempera.
Tampere.
Tampere.
Yeah, that's
Tampere.
Yeah, they hear you.
All right. All right. How about woohoo, the one I do very well? Now I'm going to Torka.
No, did it?
This is a real. How did I do that? I'm actually nervous now because I was.
No.
That was the one I was doing very, very well. Torku.
Great.
Welcome. Sorry about that. Now I'm gonna. Sorry about this, Asko. Yavlaskala. So, do you all stay standing? Stay for a second. If you could all stay. Do you all know each other? This is a perfect example of why we do this exercise. Is kind of get a chance to see who might be in some of your areas. So take a look around. If you get a chance, maybe introduce yourselves. This is, part of the community building is seeing, oh, look, there's somebody in my same town. This is the university city, for those of us not from Finland, the university city about 3 hours north of here, correct? Asko, is that a fairly good explanation? All right. Oulu.
Oulu.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're getting there.
I'm sorry, Auntie.
It's fine.
All right, Oulu.
Typical.
Yes. All right, thank you. Welcome. That's the city I want to visit most in Finland I've not been to. So, all right, now I'm going to try Sweden and Norway.
Should we take other places in Finland? Because yeah.
Other places in Finland. Sorry about that. Sorry. Other places in Finland. Please stand up.
No.
And I've talked a lot about this. One of the things is working with the community, and we'll do things like that. Sometimes we'll, mispronounce your name and that, but it's always wonderful to take the time to actually learn something new about people around and people in our community. So if I forget somebody or if I do something, if I mislocate you, I apologize. But come talk to me and I can learn some more. Sweden and Norway. Christina and Ellis.
Hi.
Welcome. Our friends from Russia.
Hey.
How about any of our friends from Estonia?
Woo.
Any of our friends from Lithuania and Latvia? No? How about, I'm going to group a few together here. How about anyone, any of our friends from Poland, Belarus, or the Ukraine? You all know each other? You're sitting pretty close. No, there's the perfect opportunity. So this has helped us build a community. We did this first time in our first conference, and that was kind of the key, was since we're all together here, all 350 of us, a chance to see who's around. Our friends from Germany.
Oh. Great job, Rene. Rene is our board member from Germany there, so he's been Rene and his company, they've been doing a great job getting the community bigger.
How about our friends from the Netherlands and Belgium? Anyone? Our friends from the UK, including, I got, I want to say London and Ireland. Another day. England and Ireland. And this is part of the UK. I called it. So we wanted to call it. Someone had asked. I know we had, looking at the map, we had a fair number of people in Ireland. So we were kind of trying to call out, see different spots here. How about our friends from Italy? Anyone from Italy? Yes. How about any of our friends from Greece? I'm going to go ahead and jump. How about anybody else from, I'm going to call Europe and maybe Central Europe? Central Europe and remaining areas in there? So one of the things that's kind of been whispered in my ear that it was brought up was that we're looking possibly of having something in 2021 next year, in addition to the conference here, which has been so successful and is growing, looking again towards Central Europe, in that area, possibly around Frankfurt, as a central location, having an additional maybe one-day conference.
Yeah, we'll see. There's been some discussion about that. There's been a lot of discussion about our organizing RoboCon conferences in other countries. But of course, for us here from Finland, it's hard to do that. So we need definitely local communities. But we can easily tell that there's a big community in Germany, also in the Netherlands. So somewhere there, like Frankfurt-ish or somewhere around there, might be a very good location to have a conference next year, then maybe extending it to USA later and India, all different places. But especially the further we go from here, the more we need local people to help.
Any of our friends from Africa? From India? Any of our friends from India? How about I've got kind of South Asia and the Pacific regions, maybe Indonesia or the Philippines. Any of our friends?
There's hand.
A hand. All right, welcome. Southern and Latin America. Any friends from Southern and Latin America? How about United States and Canada? So we're always building communities. We have, how many meetup groups are there? How many? 16? I think there are about 16. I had looked last time. There are meetup groups. I know we've got some on the East Coast and West Coast in the States, near where I am. We also have some in Finland. There's some in Germany. But there are about 16 meetup groups.
I think there must be 20 or something like that. Much more. Yeah.
26 now. I actually, because I'm interested in the community, I've actually tried to join all of them. So I think I have a few more to join in. But I just encourage you, so much gets done by the community. The community really is an important part of this project. You all are an important part of this project. And so I encourage you to, get online, get on the Slack channels, help people out, just be a part of that community. And you might come in because you have a need. Come on in if you have a need. But over time, as you be more and more part of that community, I just encourage you to also see what you can do to help out. So thank you all, and thank you for coming. And thank you for hosting us.
Yes, thanks.
So Antti, that's tempor. Later on, you're going to help me.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks Ed, and thank you. Time for questions.
Yes, I have actually a few. RSF Warm. Who is working on that? Any idea? Just curious.
It's
That's
by the
something what I will investigate.
Yeah, it's by the community. This is embarrassing. I don't remember this person's name now, and it seems I cannot use Ismo's computer either, so I cannot now show it. But if you Google that with and from GitHub, you'll find it.
All right. I assume that it's already usable and there's documentation how to use it and so on.
To be honest, I haven't used it. I've looked at it. It has pretty good documentation and it looks very interesting. And there's already community building behind that, so the people are using it. I know that as well. I haven't personally tested it, but it's definitely something to check out. Maybe you do it and then present it at the lightning talk. I mean, I'll vote.
Yeah, I gotta go a little bit earlier, but I would love to.
Okay. If there's somebody else who wants to do that, I'll promise to vote that talk because I'd like to see that live.
Yeah. Then other thing is that regarding of the tooling, if you are not aware of, our company did a debugger for the Visual Studio Code, and it's already available in robotframework.org.
Okay.
So I encourage people to check that out. So basically in Visual Studio Code you can step into and that kind of stuff and check the variable values and so on. So
cool.
Yeah.
More questions? No? Morning exercise.
Yes, hello. About Robot Framework 3.2, was it this, is this old information still, but was it like this that checks and test cases will be replaced with tasks?
No.
They will be parallel, or?
What happened in 3.1 was that we made it possible to create tasks.
Okay.
So basically, the change there was that instead of me having here this header test cases, I could use tasks header, and everything else would basically be the same. And that happened already in 3.1. In 3.2, there are no changes related to that.
Okay.
These parser changes are partly inspired by RPA use case, because in the RPA use case, those forthcoming new syntax structures will be very useful. So that's kind of that was one of the reasons driving this new parser as well. But there are no real changes related to this, and there won't be changes. So you will in the future you can create test cases and you can create tasks. At least there are absolutely no plans to change this logic anyway.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else there? All right, let's see. Let's make it safe. So can you pass this there? Thank you.
The language protocol thingy, how that thing is proceeding?
It's not yet proceeding. There were discussion. I think you are aware that we had discussion about that already at the autumn to start looking at it, but it's been kind of waiting for this new for Robot Frameworks this 3.2 parsing APIs to get stable, and now they are. Well, now they are stable enough to actually start looking at that. So and it would be good to do that even before 3.2 finally is released, because now it would be a great time to enhance still, make fine-tuning for the APIs if needed. So that's something that definitely needs to be discussed here, need to be discussed tomorrow at sprints even more, and what can we start doing with it. But for me, it will be even higher priority to get 3.2 ready, but I'm still kind of, at least to some extent, starting to look at that as well. And I hope there will be others who are interested to help.
But the priority thing means that the foundation will support the development.
Yes.
Money-wise.
Yeah, basically it means that, yeah, foundation has some money, as we'll learn from Ismo's presentation, and that money will be spent for robot framework development. And these years it's been mainly paid, well, for me, although I kind of like robot framework a lot and like working with it, but I also have bills to pay and stuff like this, so I need to get some money somewhere. And so the foundation is paying me. With 3.2, there's also been Janne Härkönen, who has also been working with, so that foundation has been paying for that as well. And we'll see what we'll do then with this language server. There is money. There is some money, but there is not enough money for more. If there isn't even money for one total full-time developer, I do other things than robot framework development. So, but hopefully we would have enough money to have like bigger team than just me, because that would be stupid. So we'll see what happens. But the foundation has money, and then the priority thing really means that okay, we are going to spend that foundation money, or foundation is going to spend that money to get language thing, protocol thing done. So. We'll see.
More questions?
And that's also, I mean, Ismo was talking about getting new members and other ways that we can get more money and so on. Because if we had like double that amount of money, then we would have like maybe 2 or 3 people team, and then this stuff would happen faster, of course. But even with the current, how the foundation is doing now, we still can do development, and things are proceeding nicely. But of course, the more we have resources, the more we can have people working, and the faster things happen.
Maybe Pekka don't want to beg for money, but so it's really not that we have money. It's like we can cover the costs in the moment with foundations. So don't get the impression we have money and then we throw it on some developer to get the language server done. So we need help. We need help from your companies, from you especially. You could throw money to us without being member. So if your company says, "Hi, my people are too slow writing robot framework tests," and this can, I think, easily be increased by 10 or 20%, just coding speed with a proper language server stuff. So just throw money to us, maybe 5,000 euro, maybe 10, if you want, of course, more. If you have less, okay, it's also fine. But also you can volunteer with working hours. So if you have a developer somewhere sitting, done something like this, you could just spend some hours helping us, volunteering with work. So please spread these words. We will send emails also with this, but I think it's really awesome feature if we would have a language support in every editor in the world. So please help the foundation to support.
This is a bit related to contributing. Would it be possible to arrange more sprints, like every few months or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, but of course that's kind of we have an international community, and having them too frequently will be a problem, or then it will be only people basically from capital area, maybe from other places in Finland or close by. But maybe, I like the idea. I've actually been thinking at some point that now that if we're having Robocon here is this kind of a winter time, well, it's not really winter at this year, but anyway, whatever it is. So maybe we could have something like summer sprints, perhaps something, but then people joining could have kind of bit different experience from Finland. So that might be something, but I don't think too often is maybe not good if you want to make them big. But some kind of maybe longer sprints.
I think that's a perfect opportunity for the community. You know, you think about all our individual
Yeah. Yeah, so it's totally true that there can be kind of local sprints, and then it's only the local community that decides how often they want to have them. But I think we could have some kind of a more kind of a bigger sprint as well. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we are probably going. There was some. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Many people are trying to contribute by developing robot framework libraries, but many of those libraries die very soon. Could you please give us some clues or recommendations how to properly select robot framework libraries which are supported or will be supported for AGs, let's say? Are these just libraries that are mentioned on your website, or can we take other one, if you understand me? Because I have an experience from a huge rework when some library has died.
Yeah, well, you are dealing with open source projects, and depending on a project, then you kind of, when you're working with open source project, you need to know kind of how is that project supported if you want to invest a lot on that. So with Robot Framework itself, the core project, we have a good situation. We have this foundation that is backing it up. So even if something would happen for me, there's always this kind of a bus factor, or tram factor, or train factor, or whatever the factor. There would be foundation still, and they would have money, resources then to continue with. So that's a great thing. But of course, then if you look at some individual Robot Framework library, then things are different, and you kind of need to look at that yourself. But the good news, of course, is that if you are really dependent on a library and then the maintainer isn't anymore working with that, you can always yourself start to contribute to that. You can, nowadays on GitHub, it's trivial to fork it, so that even if the maintainer, so you could first ask the maintainer, can you start contributing that, and if the maintainer doesn't reply for you, something has happened or is not anymore interested, you can just fork it and start working on your own. So you have always that possibility. But there's no real kind of single way that, okay, this is the way I know that this open source project will be good in the future. So that's kind of the risk that you are taking, but it's, and also you are not paying anything, you are using code people possibly have written on their own time without any being paid or anything like that, so you cannot really expect them to support your use cases. But of course, when selecting tools, of course, good to say that are there now, is that project now active, and then the more you are dependent on it, to think, could you start yourself contributing to it, so that, make sure that it will be good in the future.
I know we were out of time. I've got a lightning talk on that subject. I was going to give a lightning talk. We've got an idea on, I've kind of shared it with a few people, but basically having a GitHub organization. So in GitHub you can have an organization, and basically having a community-based organization where it's basically a central repository. But I was going to give a lightning talk.
Okay.
So, I was going to talk about that.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Pekka and Ismo.
And Ed.